Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Sean Jones, and I'm the CEO of Horizon Truck Company, and we build electric trucks. And today's talk is all about what we need to know about emissions, fleet, EPA regulations, and that sort of thing. Now, you might assume, since I'm the CEO of an electric truck company, that I'm just going to tell you guys all run out and buy electric trucks. I'm not going to do that. It only fits in certain spots, and it fits really well in those spots, but in other places, electric trucks don't really work. So what today's conversation is going to be about is what the new EPA regulations are coming in 2027, even the ones that have been rolled back, and then how it affects things and how we see the general trends, and then where does this work. Before I was asked to be the CEO of Horizon Motor, I started out in heavy trucking and intermodal freight, and we owned a construction company, so we were well familiar with constantly working with diesel trucks, gasoline trucks, that sort of thing. And of course, we all used diesel and gasoline because that's all that existed back then. Now there's other options, and now it actually makes sense in some cases to be using electric. So, there we go. So what's changing? And this has been a constant trend. I mean, it's not just, EPA 2027. I mean, when I was a kid, cars had carburetors on them, then they moved to fuel injection. Constantly more complicated, constantly ending up getting better efficiency, getting better, less emissions. And that's a trend that's going on. And now we've seen a lot of it with the EPA 2027 coming up, and all the new regulations are going to come in there. But one of the things about that is you can't really ignore the trend, which has always been more complicated engines, higher fuel efficiency, and now they're being mandated by EPA. Now, even if you looked at that and you said, okay, yeah, but in February 11th or 12th, they just chopped out part of that. It's like, that's true, but the 2027 regulations are still there, you know? And then, are you going to try to base your fleet purchases on what this administration is going to do or the next administration is going to do, or you're going to try to follow what make the dollars and cents work? And so this conversation isn't going to be like, you should buy electric trucks to save the environment and that sort of thing. No, it's going to be like, when do buying electric trucks end up making you comply with EPA, and when do they end up making you money? Because it really boils down to, it's not like we're going to try to sell you electric trucks saying, okay, well, save the environment, that sort of thing. No, it's when does it make money for us? So right now, an electric Class 8 diesel, or electric Class 8 dump truck is running about 25 cents per mile for fuel cost. That same truck is probably running 60 cents per mile in diesel fuel costs. So, and that was probably from 2 weeks ago. Now it's maybe $1 a mile. So if you're looking at that quarter a mile versus $1 a mile, that's a big difference. And at that point, it really starts making sense to go electric. Now, and that's what we're talking about, is how things have changed and how it is that when does electric make sense for you. So even 10 years ago, electric trucks didn't make much sense. The battery technology wasn't very good. The motors weren't that good. But now it actually does. It's actually crossing. So, okay. So what do you really need to know? Well, from EPA 2027, and what we've always seen in the past, is we know that the diesel engines are going to get more complicated. They've constantly gotten more complicated. They're being mandated to. Also, if they're constantly trying to get better mileage out of these things, which means there's going to be more electronics, there can be more sensors, there's going to be more things like the DEF fluid, and the exhaust system is going to get even more complicated all the way along the line. And so, when you're comparing that to an electric trucks are freaking simple. You got a motor and you got a battery. You don't have injectors. You don't have fuel pumps. You don't have DEF fluid. None of that exists. You don't have this big complicated engine and a transmission behind it. You've got a motor and a battery. And so there's certain times when it really makes sense, and all those little bits end up making an awful lot of savings. So for example, we had a test trial with these guys that owned a tow truck company out in LA. And they used to have to replace their brakes every month and a half. Well, over this entire 8-month test trial, they haven't had to replace the brakes on electric trucks even once. So things like that maintenance savings are really there. But it doesn't fit everything. It's got to be in the right spot. So diesel's not going away. Oh. Come on. There we go. This one maintenance cost. Nope. Yeah. All right. Well, diesel's not going away. I mean, it's not. There's just so many places where diesel works that electric just won't yet. And part of it is just because weight. Electric works really well in certain situations, but diesel works much, much better. So if we're at a show like this and somebody from northern Canada comes by and says, we run 400 miles every day, we're like, yeah, just keep walking. We're not for you, And that's the case. If you have like set routes that you know what the route's going to be and you know how far you're going to go and you know that you're going to have charging on both ends, electric's great. But if you're picking up routes off of the job boards and tomorrow you'll be in Nebraska and the next day you'll be in Texas, it doesn't fit. But diesel's not going away, and it's not going to go away because there's just so many places where it only works well. Okay. There we go. Uh-oh. All right, well, we'll go there. Forward one. There we go. All right, so where does electric work? When I first got asked to be the CEO of Horizon Motor and we started looking at this, that was the main thing we said. It's like, well, where does it work? Well, it works in electric loves, short, start, stop. They regenerate on the stop. They like lower speeds. I mean, they're just great for that. So you're talking about tow trucks, dump trucks, delivery vans in the cities, concrete trucks. All those vocational type trucks are really good fits for it. So, and what happens is like the example I just gave with the dump truck is if your fuel cost is all the way down there at 25 cents per mile versus $1 a mile, then that's where it really fits well. And it also fits on long routes in very specific locations. So we have a Class 8 over-the-road tractor, but the only places it's really going to work well for somebody like you is if it's going from one spot and you have the same lane going back and forth, back and forth. That's where it works. And it does. It ends up saving you a tremendous amount of money in those places. But it doesn't work everywhere. As I guess it just said. Yeah, it doesn't work on super heavy payloads, doesn't work on long distances between them, and if you don't have charge control or you have very variable routes, so you don't know what you're going to be running that day. Okay. So, as a driver, what you're going to care about, one, is it easy to drive? Are you going to run out of fuel midway through? And then every time I get in it, is it going to start and is this going to work? And it also comes back to, electric trucks are so much more simple to operate. I mean, they're cheaper to operate, and they're very, very simple devices. But it all comes back to economics. So what are the costs? The big costs that you have to pay attention to for electric trucks, or any truck, is what does it cost to buy it, what's the fuel going to cost, and what's it going to cost to maintain it? Well, we've really pushed toward trying to get our electric trucks very close to the same cost of diesel. And if you have that cost almost exactly the same, then in places where electric trucks fit, it's a kind of a no-brainer, because you're talking about literally a 60-70% savings in fuel and at least a 30% savings in maintenance costs. So, now, it comes back also to purchase price. So right now, there still is a huge premium on electric. We've got it down quite a bit, but it's still a little bit higher. But we usually calculate that on a route, that difference in purchase price will end up being amortized, or you'll end up getting that money back in less than 6 months. So really, what it boils down to is a lot of these fleet regulations, whether they're EPA or whether they're California or one of the other CARB states, isn't so much about a single truck, it's about a fleet. So if you have a fleet, it makes a lot of sense economically. It just plain old makes money for you if you can find the right truck to take over a route for an electric. Because one, then you'll be meeting their requirements for fleets, and then two, you'll actually save an awful lot of money on these things. So it comes down to, for a fleet operator, see those routes, see where it works, and end up going electric from there. So when we're talking to fleet operators now, the first thing we usually ask them is, once again, is how far is this thing going? You know, what's its route? If they say 300-400 miles of hauling gravel, it's like it doesn't fit. If it's going 250 miles and starting to stop going all day, perfect fit. That's where you make a lot of money, and that's where you save a lot of money. The next thing you have to talk about with fleet owners is how you're going to charge it. So if it goes back to a plant or something like that every night, charging's easy. But if that driver ends up taking it back to their house every night, how are you going to charge a big truck? You just don't have the power there. So once again, it doesn't fit everybody because it has to be in a position where you can charge up the truck. Okay. So when we're looking at the EPA 2027, it's just really part of the continuing process. I mean, even if big parts of it end up getting changed or knocked down, it's an ongoing process. I mean, California used to seem like an outlier, but now there's 13 states that are following their rules, and there's going to be more states following the rules as it goes on. And that means that, not that diesel's dead, but that means that diesel engines are going to get more and more complicated to meet those rules. An easy way for a fleet operator, especially, to try to meet their fleet efficiency regulations is simply to find those trucks where electric makes the most sense and electric can do well for you, and then put those into your fleet at that point. Like I say, it doesn't fit everyone, and it's not going to fit it's not going to fit a long variable route. It just isn't. But if you have the same route over and over again, perfect. If it's just staying inside a particular area, 200 miles, 300 miles a day, start and stop, perfect. And those savings are real. I mean, look at what happened with diesel prices from just a couple of weeks ago. They went up, they almost doubled just because people started shooting at each other on the other side of the planet. Electric rates don't do that. Electric rates might go up, but they're not skipping all over the place. So if you want to try to plan your budget, electric is much more stable. Okay. Any questions?